He left a career in mortgage banking to pursue his passion for cooking. He's now the board chairman at Deli Board in San Francisco, a sandwich shop I can confidently say makes some of the best sandwiches in the country. Hey everyone, I'm Cappy and welcome to Beyond the Plate. This is a podcast where we sit down with the world's culinary elite to explore their journey into the food industry and the social impact they have made in their communities. If you're new to the pod, welcome. If you've listened before, we're glad you're back. If you're just tuning in, don't miss Heard, our short audio newsletter that comes out every other Monday right here on Beyond the Plate. I'm sharing what's on my plate, from culinary insights to restaurants and recipes, all in just a few minutes. Please enjoy this episode as we go beyond the plate with Chef Adam Mesnick. Actually, before we go beyond the plate, we want to give a shout out to our friends at Siete Foods. I mean, if this shout out doesn't belong in this episode, I don't know what does. Siete is a Mexican-American food brand based in Austin, Texas. They are deeply rooted in family, and they make a variety of delicious products using thoughtfully selected ingredients so more people can enjoy them. We're talking tortillas, tortilla chips, potato chips, puff snacks, cookies, taco shells, beans, seasoning, sauces, all the good stuff. I've mentioned their cassava tortillas in the past, which I personally love, as well as some of their potato chip flavor drops. But man, I bought the spicy Fuego grain-free puff snacks a little while back, and those things were solid. I know our executive producer Ian gets down with the corn tortilla chips, and I'm still making my way through all of their kettle-cooked potato chip flavors. I just really love them. I said previously I wanted to share more about their story because Siete was founded by a third-generation Mexican-American family of 7, Siete. Get it? One of their founders, Veronica, faced some challenging health conditions, and the family rallied around her. In their kitchen, she and they crafted a tortilla from almond flour, born out of necessity to bridge wellness and culture, and all to bring more people to the table. Clearly, they've done that, and then some. And Siete Foods is an incredibly thoughtful and generous company to their community and beyond. They've done and continue to do extraordinary work, including their Juntos Fund, which they established to further their mission of uplifting underserved communities through education, entrepreneurship, and wellness. Truly such a great company. To learn more about Siete Foods, go to sietefoods.com and follow them on social media at Siete Foods for recipe inspiration, grocery shopping inspiration, and just a really cool, thoughtful, and intentional brand. Siete Foods, we thank you. All right.
Not a lot of people call me chef.
You okay with that title?
I love it. I mean, I go by chairman of the board to keep it fun, but, chef is just fine by me. 16 years grinding, I feel like I've earned the title. First of all, I have been waiting to be on this podcast. I think it's 11 seasons and a lot of episodes. I'm finally joining you here, and man, we have so much history.
I know.
Man, you know a couple different versions of me.
Like 25 years of history.
It's more. I think it's more than that. I mean, college was 97. I got out of there. 95. You're talking 30 years because it was probably somewhere around 95, right?
Well, I think it was, and I was going to mention this. It was New Year's Day of 2000 that I went to your apartment in West Palm, and you cooked a feast while we watched football.
Jason Schoen's house. Wow, that was then. I've been cooking. I was cooking before that, and I'm still cooking. It's unbelievable. Here I am, 16 years later in Deli Board.
How old were you when you opened Deli Board?
I opened Deli Board. Deli Board was when it was 2009, so I was 35. I was 35 years old.
You make some of the most incredible sandwiches, probably better than many chefs do. When you opened Deli Board, did you ever think some of the best chefs in San Francisco or in other cities would be eating your food?
I was begging for people to eat the food in 2009 and 2010, standing on the sidewalk on Howard Street and 7th in San Francisco, selling sandwiches out the door. But, I mean, that part is just incredible. The people that I feed locally, the chefs that are, the global chefs now. Look, my staff does an incredible job. They, over the years, a lot of them have been with me for 15, 16 years since the beginning of time. And, they've rolled with the punches. They've rolled with the adaptations. I was basically a catering guy to start with. And in the beginning of time, it resembled Jewish deli. And that was the basis of all my food was Jewish deli. And you look back at the menu, I sold matzo ball soup and bagels and lox and pastrami, corned beef, deli trays. It wasn't sandwiches. It was mainly rye bread, bagels, and challah. And it wasn't until Deli Board was about a year old that I discovered the bread that I use for Deli Board. And it was one of those, aha moments. Voila, holy fucking shit. This really works. This is insane. So, California, Northern California is known for its French bread, Dutch crunch, sourdough, but it's not really necessarily sandwich bread. I adapted a bread that really is used as baguettes, and I make sandwiches out of it. So we cut it and we do all sorts of Deli Board secret stuff. Like the code to crack my code is very difficult.
Really?
Yeah, it's really difficult. It'd be almost impossible. Every detail is fully thought out. And I run my kitchen a little bit differently than other people. I don't have stages running around. I don't have people coming in to inspect my restaurant so they can go home to Texas and do the same thing. I'm secretive. It's my shit, man. But when we, Dutch crunch and French bread in San Francisco, especially Dutch crunch is a Northern California bread. I would say Ike Sandwiches is the guy who put that bread on the map. But basically Dutch crunch came from the Dutch, and it is there. It's called tiger bread, and it's rice paste painted on French rolls. It adds a little bit of crunch, crisp, a different dynamic than any other bread. I've never seen anything like it. And people in Northern California go nuts for it. But what we do is in the sandwich world is completely different, right? It's not a cold sandwich that I'm serving. I'm serving a hot sandwich. I look at it as art, of course. I'm nuts about it. Down to the wrapping. The wrapping is done properly. It's not thrown together with a piece of tape. We do a special wrap, which many other restaurants use now. And I'll claim that we started calling them Sandos in 2010. So when I was calling them Sandos in 2010, people were like, what are you talking about, man? Is that a Cleveland thing? But basically, I was full force catering and full force wholesale food. And I really didn't want that much to do with retail. And what I do is we take the meat and the cheese and the peppers, etc. And in lieu of using a steamer, a traditional Jewish deli, you go, or Katz's or any of these old places, you go back to their spots. You see behind them, they have the steamer. They take the huge beef out of the steamer and then they cut it, right? They've been doing that for years. Katz is a carnival of pastrami, right? It's an absolute carnival. There's lanes for you to actually order, but it's a very difficult process and you really need to understand it, and you have to blow through pastrami. So in the beginning of time, I didn't use too much pastrami. So what I do is, in lieu of steaming the whole beef, I slice it very thin and I use very high heat to create the sandwich, which is a secret that I'll share. So the meat and the bread are cooked simultaneously, and then somebody puts the sandwich together, and then somebody else wraps the sandwich. So it's essentially an assembly line. Now, people will say, well, why can't you do more of them? Well, I run it like a real kitchen. Number one, I use high heat stoves. It's not going through a Quiznos machine. We move fast. We do as much as we possibly can. I envision the next space with maybe 2 lanes if I were to move. So you have a lot of years under your belt and you have some ideas and thoughts that could potentially make the next store even more efficient. Through time, I've learned here, we've adapted so many times with COVID, et cetera, et cetera. Now, I barely do anything other than sandwiches, fries, and once in a while I'll throw in a special. But keeping the menu very consistent helps for social media. It also helps for my staff, and we're getting better every day. My staff, really, they're the backbone of the whole operation.
Tell everyone about Deli Board as it stands today. Paint the picture for people who haven't been inside, outside, the line, the menu.
Well, yeah, the menu is, everything has a name. All the sandwiches have names, and all the names are significant. They're named after people, friends, family, significant memories, et cetera, et cetera. We just put the Allison back on the menu, which is probably one of my favorites. And it's named after my mom, and it's got corned beef and pastrami and coleslaw, pepperoncini peppers, cheddar cheese, and provolone cheese and mustard from Cleveland, and sauce. sauce. And I could barely remember what's in it these days, but I pulled it and French roll. But, if you open that sandwich, it resembles a butterfly. And if you look at my food, the two sides always match. It's incredible. They may be a little wobbly. It may be a little, it depends on how you open it, right? There's an art to opening it. You have to either put your hands on top and open that way or put your thumbs like this, which is a little uncomfortable. What people want to do with the sandwich is open it like this and they manhandle it. And then it has a hole inside, right? Because what it looks like is like a wrapped burrito for the most part. And again, they're never, ever the same twice. We hand do everything. I don't weigh the food. It's pretty much kind of an expensive way to do things, but the food is very expensive. I think people are understanding of price, and I expect it to skyrocket a little bit over the next couple of years, which is unfortunate, but I don't have a lot of options. And, you do the best that you can with the circumstances that you have. But the store now, it's all carry out. There's absolutely no eating in. I have one table in the front, and at about 11 o'clock, people start to queue up in line, and, my staff does an amazing job of taking the orders. And once you order, I've created a system where the food takes between 8 to 10 minutes, regardless of how many people you are. It takes about 8 to 10 minutes once you order. So if there is no line, you don't wait that long, but there could be a line. And on the weekends, Baruch Hashem, I have tons of people coming and wanting to eat my food. And again, having chefs, great culinary minds visit and eat, it's incredible. I mean, it's incredible feeding those people. These people are like, they're like, I'm a food nerd, and my group would, friends through the years, don't you talk about anything other than food? Don't you talk? No, I really don't. I don't know much else about anything other than food. I'm pretty much a simpleton that doesn't know much about anything but food. And I love it. I cook every day. I cook my staff meal every day. So I get in the kitchen. They're making noise back there, but I get in there every day. I cook for them and I prep food. And I did a couple events last week. So I do some private catering these days. And I do, they call them collaborations, but I made cheeseburgers at somebody's restaurant is what I did. I'm not, it was a collaboration in that it was his sauce. And he cooked them. But yeah, that's what it looks like. 11 to 3, Tuesday through Sunday. And if you think you're coming in with 2 people to order 24 sandwiches, they're going to tell you no at the door. I make a limit. You can only order 6 sandwiches with a group or with an individual. And I have a real commitment to the onesie twosies. I think those, you get someone who comes here and they eat here once a year and they want to order 25 sandwiches. And I completely appreciate that. But if you and your family come here, I want you to get your food as quickly as possible. And waiting behind 25 people, I would have been out of business a long time ago. And I take it all seriously. I worked in fine dining restaurants. I worked in mom and pop shops. And, I cooked at Michael Mina's restaurant, Aqua, here for about 6 months. The greatest part about being a mortgage banker is I made money. Money helps to buy things like time. And I had a lot of time. So I staged at Michael's Aqua in 2003, something like that. Ended up getting a job for Michael, right? They hired me. And then when I quit, they were pissed. They wanted to give me like 50 cents more an hour to shuck oysters. I was on garde manger. I did garde manger and I cooked for the staff. They were like, who is this guy? They all were like, that's the rich kid that's got a day job. And anyways, I could tell you all sorts of stories about working at that restaurant for 6 months. But my restaurant runs a lot differently than a mainstream restaurant. My staff through the years, mainly, they all now have second jobs and they all work at restaurants, but they all worked at Deli Board first and learned how to restaurant here. I was really firm about, again, the secret piece and hiring people, a solid foundation that had good work ethic and could learn, right? So, I don't have like a master slicer from Langer's. I have a guy who does his best from Honduras and he does a fantastic job.
If someone wants to order 20 sandwiches for their office on a Tuesday, do you do that?
Look, there's an exception to every rule, and notifying me would be one of the smarter things that anyone could do, like emailing me or calling me. And then even emailing me like on a Thursday for the next Tuesday, it would be amazing. But that's not how people operate. It's more of
They call you an hour before.
right, like, hey, I have a thing at 12 o'clock. Can you do 25 sandwiches for me? And it's, and I have friends to refer them to, but a lot of people in this new world, I think they're misguided. And the problem is that I think what my catering business started to get eaten alive in 2017 and 2018 from delivery. I mean, I get delivery for my staff sometimes and once or twice a week. And the reality is it works great for 12 people, right? It's $22 for 12 people. I have their burritos locked in. Everyone gets the one that they want, right? And they know. And that's really convenient. That's what people want. They want individual. They don't want 24 turkey, bacon, avocado. They want 24 sandwiches that the individual create or alter from my menu. And it's just not what I do.
Let's go back to where it all started. What were you like as a kid?
Me?
Yeah.
I was a bad boy.
You were?
Yeah. I mean, my mom tells the stories a lot better than I do because it's a long time ago, but spent a lot of time I got kicked out of a temple once, day school temple, had a tough time at a private school. I spent a lot of time creating ruckus. I think that I was a little bit ahead of my time in that I had a lot of opinions on things.
Were you into food?
Oh my God, I was a nerd then too. Yeah, I mean, I grew up on Martin Yan. I've heard a lot of people recently say that because Martin's kind of reemerged, but Martin's my homie, man. Martin had a Chinese restaurant at the mall, the now defunct mall at Westfield. And it was on the 5th floor. And I'm telling you, it was the best food in a mall that ever was. Martin Yan's Chinese food is absolutely stunning. He had a chef named Tony Wu. I've never had chili oil like it. The secret to the chili oil was really interesting. You walk in there and they'd be like, do you have a seafood allergy? And you would say yes or no. And they said, don't eat the chili oil if you have a seafood allergy. They took all their fried bits of everything from the bottom of the fryer, and that was the base of the chili oil. It was crazy. It was spicy, but it was a beautiful space. It was open. In the 70s, my grandmother, my father's mother, my grandmother, my Nanny Ann was a incredible baker and an incredible chef. And we used to walk WOK when I was 4 or 5, right? I mean, she was incredible and cooked all over the world and taught me all sorts of stuff. I mean, she taught me how to matzo ball. She taught me how to brisket. But my first exposure to all of food was all that Jewish style cooking. So for the beginning of my life and through high school, I mean, I was skilled at having holiday parties, inviting people over for Rosh Hashanah. I used to throw parties. I used to throw Rosh Hashanah parties that people could, I'd cook for 20 people.
In high school?
For many years. And so my first exposure was all that Jewish cooking. And so I became pretty skilled at both, at the time, Chinese food and Jewish food.
Did you think you were going to wind up cooking professionally when you were younger or in high school or something like that? Or no clue at that time?
It was one of those things where, I mean, my mom and my family, they've had such great influence on me. My mom's second husband was a restaurateur. Not only did I grow up in my grandmother's kitchen cooking, I grew up in the restaurant. So I started probably bussing tables when I was 6 or 7, watching people throw up in the bathroom that were servers, people in the kitchen doing all the things that kitchen people do. I learned a lesson very quickly. Now, because my mother was also exposed to it at the same time, chefs were derelicts. That was the word that she used. So there was always there was a discouragement for me not to become a cook. Again, I think that Food Network completely changed the face of the planet, right? Like now I would imagine families who have a kid who cooks or they'd encourage them to become a chef. No different than a baseball player now. But at the time, because of our exposure and what we saw, what the family saw in the restaurant, it's a hard business to be in. You know that. You've been around it your whole life too.
It's definitely a crazy industry. I mean, growing up, I grew up in the wholesale side of the industry and I loved food, and people would joke that I should go to culinary school. And I thought it was a joke at that time in the 80s and 90s. Nowadays, it's like almost like a cool thing to do. You wind up going to University of Kansas, right? And were you spending time in the kitchen then? And if so, like what were you making?
Yeah, no, I mean, again, I was a very simple chef out of Cleveland. I understood the Jewish food very well. And like I said, I mean, I had some friends that cooked. So I met food people like me in the dorm and through friends. Again, and they introduced me to their food. And I think that's what's great about having friends that are also chefs, right? Because, again, I was talking about a friend, Ricky Wallowitz, who was a young chef, right? Like you either have it or you don't, right? Like there's something very particularly special and chefs have a gift, right? Like certain people just know how much salt and know how much pepper and can make food all taste good no matter what, right? So when you meet somebody that has, like, you can tell if they have that sophisticated palate, number one, and then you can tell when they cook if the food is good, right? So like, I think that's very important. And in college, I spent probably 70% of my time at a restaurant. I worked at a restaurant called the Yacht Club down there. If you remember the Yacht Club. The Yacht Club was like a boosters bar, where all the sports players, it was the University of Kansas, and they had a really lousy football team, but they had incredible basketball teams. And the thing is, like, there was no money to be made. The only benefit for the athletes was food and beverage. What could you really give them? Like, it was, they were very careful about it. There was no contracts for the college kids. So I fed them. I fed all sorts of basketball players. They used to come to the bar and drink a couple gigantic beers for $44 for 18 beers and chug one or two and eat a couple double cheeseburgers. But yeah, I was making double cheeseburgers back then. Buffalo wings at Yacht Club. They had a special KC strip, and I used to cook a KC strip on a flat grill over there. And I had like a following of people who would come on Thursdays when I worked, right? Like I developed a following for food, and I'm like, maybe I do make some good food. Like maybe I got something here. And as time went on, I became more confident in the kitchen over there. And, I ended up managing a kitchen of 3 people, in a college town at a bar. It was so dirty. I really got a lot of practice in college. And then post-college again, my career, the mortgage finance career, gave me a lot of flexibility. I was always really mainly a work from home kind of guy before work from home was a thing. So I was able to pull off as much kitchen work as I possibly could. I worked at throughout time in San Francisco. I worked at Petit Crème, which is one of Dominique Crème's restaurants. I staged there a couple years ago before COVID. And I've had lots of restaurants I've worked at just one night, done dishes, whatever. I usually end up doing the dishes, but I feel most comfortable in a kitchen. My restaurant is very hectic and fast paced, but being in the kitchen is a place I just absolutely feel the most comfortable there.
When you were there's probably a number of people who won't know what I'm referencing, but there was a sandwich shop in Lawrence, Kansas, at the University of Kansas called Yellow Sub. It was
studied them.
Yeah. That was my question. Did they have any?
I studied that. Are you joking? I have their menus. I wish I had it here. I collected menus from all sorts of sandwich shops for many years. I have from the University of Kansas. I have a friend at Indiana that used to stash for me. Ohio State, Wisconsin. I have all these like Midwestern sandwich menus. And I was always so motivated by like the combinations, the ideas, and the thought. And I will say that out of Yellow Sub, I stole a cream cheese idea. They do a product, it was called the Green Turkey. And Green Turkey had cream cheese, avocado, and turkey. And I think it was on their wheat bread. Now, Yellow Sub was also had a brother or sister restaurant called Planet Sub. And if you look up Planet Sub, I think they were out of Colorado. I think they still exist today. You can look it up. It's called Planet Sub. But that was, they did an incredible job. That place was great. They had sprouts and nice, clean sandwiches. It was a little hippy dippy vibe, right? There's definitely, if you walk into Deli Board, if you walk into Deli Board and you know every place that I've ever been, you'll be like, there's a little bit of it in there, right? Like replication is the greatest compliment to a certain degree. And yeah, I've some of my greatest influences in Lawrence. Man, I loved Yellow Sub. I mean, forever. And then there was a place called Mr. Good Sense there, if you recall.
Oh, yeah.
Mr. Good Sense did a cold sandwich and they sliced their meat fresh. They're still around. But yeah, I yanked a lot about that. And I think that one of the things I remember most from Mr. Good Sense, their Italian dressing was fantastic, right? Like, and that's what makes like a cold sandwich, really good cold sandwich, is the dressing, right? It's not necessarily what is in it. The bread helps. But they did a great job, Mr. Good Sense. But, restaurants in Cleveland, there's a restaurant called Tommy's there, which has been there forever. It's in Coventry. And I learned how to Munster cheese out of that place. I use Munster cheese. And he does hummus and Munster cheese. And he has one sandwich, a lot of sandwiches. They have tuna and falafel. I have one called Fatty Matty, which also has tuna and falafel. And it's got hummus and Munster cheese and sprouts. A writer once called it a Frankenwich. It's an absolutely delicious piece of work, in my opinion, with all the influence that I've gotten in the past. And then you put my sauce on it, it makes it really nice.
We actually have a question from a call-in question from Chef Lee Wolin of Chicago's Michelin-starred restaurant Boca, and he wants you to share more about that Fatty Matty sandwich.
So the Fatty Matty is one of my best friends who also happens to be Lee Wolin's first cousin. I would say, I mean, they're closer. They're like brothers, the two of them. But my friend Matt lives in LA and Lee now lives in Chicago. But I've known Lee Wolin since he was probably 3 or 4 years old. And I find Lee to be one of the most brilliant chefs that there is. And I think you bring up a Lee Wolin. I mean, I say it, Lee Wolin's my hero. The guy is absolutely tremendous. And I think what makes Lee really special, and I've been around a lot of restaurants and Michelin stars and accolades and best chefs, best this, best that, right? You get that. It happens. Number one, he's sustainable. His track record here is incredible. He's starting to notch up new restaurants that are all incredibly successful, and the food is incredible. And I think what's more important about a guy like Lee Wolin is, I know that I've been in his restaurant kitchens. It's the environment that he creates. It's the environment. There is so much more. These guys get a Michelin star, and the next year they're being sued by 40 employees. I mean, let's be very real. That press and accuracy in creating valid kind of criteria for what's really important hasn't quite happened yet, right? In my opinion. I mean, there's a lot of people who are tremendous chefs and have incredible restaurants out of the gate, but there's also something very wrong with fast recognition if your house is not in order, right? And I think about how long it took for Deli Board to almost go out of business 14 times to get to 16 years, right? There were times I'm like, I'll never make it through this year. I mean, who knows? It's a day by. I'm a recovery guy and an ex-drinker. So I take it day by day, and that's how I run Deli Board. We get through today. My staff asks me about tomorrow. I'm not concerned. I have no idea. Let's do Monday. Let's do Tuesday. And then we can talk about Wednesday tomorrow. But I don't have the capacity to do it. And what my goal is for all the people who come in today to get the very best sandwich that they can today. So again, let's get back to Lee, how incredible Lee Wolin is. He comes from an incredible family, and I hope that someday he is rewarded for all of his tremendous work, all of his support. I mean, the guy, like, I've never seen a kitchen staff respect a chef like he gets from his staff. It's incredible. And they learn. He's an educator.
It's important in the industry, especially today. He also wanted me to ask, who's the real king of Cleveland?
Tell him LeBron James. Lee's the king. I got a photo of him. I called him the king. He's the best. He's a ball buster.
Okay, so when did you decide to make the jump from mortgage to food?
Well, it's like a country song. Sad story. Started in 2006 with a bottle of whiskey and a lost job. I got laid off in 2006, mid-6. Early 7, somewhere around 6. And I worked for a publicly traded company at the time, and they had a State of the Union, and everyone got laid off, the whole company. So I had a couple random jobs, and I had notebooks and piles of papers and food ideas and catering ideas and Deli Board ideas. How was I going to make Deli Board a reality? And I spent a lot of time at bars getting wasted and thinking about how I was going to do that. And then when I threw up, I'd write down down some notes and start again the next day. This is true stories, but and that was a long time ago. And I had a couple random jobs in 2007, 2008 into 9. I ended up working for Wells Fargo, and my mortgage loan processor was a girl whose husband became the founder of a company called Almanac Beer, if you know Almanac Beer. And Almanac Beer is out of San Francisco, but now based out of Alameda, which is right over the bridge there. And the guy's name is Damian Fagan, and the guy's brilliant. So Damian Fagan at the time worked for himself, a company called Fagan and Wells, and his wife heard me on the phone. Yeah, man, I need a logo for this. I was at my mortgage job doing nothing. Yeah, man, I need a logo for my deli. I'm just gonna do it. I'm just gonna do it. My buddy said he can help me get into this kitchen. I'm gonna move into this commercial kitchen, and he's gonna help prop me up, buy some food from me from catering. And he's tapped in with UCSF, which is the local hospital here. It's on, baby. Let's do this. And she heard me. She was like, my husband's incredible at logos. And I'm like, all right, introduce me. So for the next couple months, me and him built a logo while I was at Wells Fargo. Thank you very much. He gave me some comps and some art and helped me design the menu. And the guy's got a Midas touch. Before me, he was doing Hanson's and Nestle and Stouffer's. The guy is super talented. When he did my logo and I'm catering and wholesale guy, he's like, Adam, I guarantee someday you will be doing retail sandwiches, retail storefronts. It's built for this. The logo will work. But go ahead and have your catering and wholesale fund now. And he was right. But the art helped and kind of the feel, the vibe. He's from the Midwest, so he brought a lot of Midwestern into it. And obviously there's a lot of Cleveland echo in my store. I would tell people that my store, it's like an art gallery now, but it looks like it has pictures of sandwiches and children's art. And if your kids want to draw a photo, have them send it my way. We find room anywhere. It's becoming one of those places where there's really no room left to hang pieces, but we find ways to stuff it in. But the storefront looks like an art gallery. It looks nothing like a sandwich shop. So I think people are really confused by that. Now that was part of my plan, and I never thought the Jewish deli aesthetic was something appetizing for people. You walk around and they're flinging corned beef and pastrami and turkey, and I find it. I'm a germaphobe. I was long before COVID. I'm a wash your hands kind of guy more than a cover your face kind of guy, but wash your hands, chefs.
Wait, you're opening a sandwich shop in one of the best food cities in the world. Were you scared to open or nervous or confident?
I was exhilarated by the food scene here. It was incredible. Now it's still top tier, but it's changed, right? It changed like anything else. It's changed, but I was excited. I was exhilarated. I was going to feed Mike and Mina. I was going to find all the chefs to feed them. I had aspirations to be the best.
You've opened and closed and moved locations. How do you handle, I guess you said you deal with things day by day, but do you have anyone that you lean on for advice when these things happen?
I've had such great opportunities to talk to great people. That's the thing. I have Lee Wolin. Hey, Lee, give me an idea on Italian dressing. I asked, are you joking? Fucking canola, whatever. He said, are you joking? But, you lean on the community. And what's really stealth and healthy here is the community of restaurateurs. We support one another. I'm not involved in all the restaurant group bullshit. I don't buy into that crap. But as a community, we support each other. My friends that are chefs appreciate me coming to the place, dropping an Instagram. They do the same back for me. I'm going to go somewhere for lunch maybe today, see my buddy at Al Pastor Poppy, who just opened a Mexican restaurant at Union Square. I think we depend on one another. And I think with social media and with, talented chefs around that are very good, how do you keep up, right? I think that's the greatest thing about San Francisco. It's impossible to keep up with all the great food. I find something new all the time that I never knew about. And again, I'm glad to be a part of that exhilarating scene. My food is expensive, so it fits San Francisco and the big city, but I am in a very challenging neighborhood, and that's always been the case. So, again, we do the very best my staff. We lean on all the restaurants as help, as a place to derive advice. But on the other hand, I'm also very seasoned in restaurant. I'm very seasoned in kitchen. I've spent hours and hours studying, reading, inspecting. I only read cookbooks. I'm one of those guys. I can't. I'm a service and food nerd, period. I mean, it is one of the things that I'm very obsessed with. And I find it to be, as I gain knowledge, I'm always learning something every day too. What's incredible about the kitchen, if you think about it, it's one of the only industries where anybody can then be the leader, right? Think about all the guys, in like leading Woolens kitchens, right? Or leading like a really good chef's kitchen. Like ask them where they came from, right? They probably were dishwashing at that restaurant, right? Like I would imagine, sure, there's a lot of people who have pedigrees, but a lot of these guys like start at the bottom, and it's really the only industry that you could start at the very bottom and then end up at the very top.
You mentioned you're not part of a group or anything like that, but I have to imagine, like, how many offers or opportunities have you gotten to expand Deli Ward?
If I had $1 for every one, I probably wouldn't be talking to you right now. It's crazy. It's bananas. It's an everyday occurrence. And I dip my toes in it, and then I decide that it's not a good idea, or I meet somebody and we explore the opportunity, and the opportunity is there, but then the financials aren't right for someone. It's at some point, I would imagine I'll meet either the right person or right group, and I'm more flexible, but I think that I'm very hard to work with. And that's like I'm not really looking to give up control. And, one thing that happens, and it becomes about finance, and it's impossible to avoid those conversations. And it's impossible to not think like that. It's a business. For me, I don't see it as a model that really works for like Ike's. Ike's got 120, 130 restaurants. I think it works maybe, if you find an owner operator that really wants to own a deli board, it would be very expensive for them to put my name on their store. The reality is I've built a reputation of success, and it's taken this long to have a line and to feed as many people as I do. And I would imagine because of the trajectory and foundation that the foundation was 2 sandwiches a day, right? You're talking about like in 2010, you're talking about like days where I may have sold like $65 worth of food. It's crazy. It was like, and we were high-fiving when we did 82 the next day, right? Like that was 4 sandwiches or 5 sandwiches. And then you start to do 12 and you're still high-fiving. And then you're looking at Yelp, right? Back in the day, we were like on Yelp every day, like, give us a Yelp, give us a Yelp, give us a, that was the driver at the time. It was Yelp in 2010. So you're increasing sales, but you're also like really building a foundation. And the foundation took so many years. And then COVID happened, right? And that was like a full rebuild. That was a full adaptation. I lost about half my business when COVID happened because I always catered party. Catering stuff was always pretty active here. There were you lost a lot of offices because they had, Airbnb and Google and all those guys had kitchens in their buildings and really good food. So you lost a lot of that, but there was still catering. But then when COVID, that was it, done. So we rebuilt, and COVID brought French fries. We started to do French fries, waffle fries as a daily. We started to shrink the menu a little bit, cut things back. And really what got me through COVID was deli meat by the pound. I would say that was my big hitter. Like a lot of these restaurants that were like mid-dining or fine, they figure out, we're going to do a fried chicken sandwich. I did meat by the pound, but meat by the pound made it, people wanted to eat turkey at home. It was a good fit and it worked a lot. It worked my people. And then we slowly rebuilt from there, but we worked all the way through COVID. We may have closed for the full 2 shutdowns or what have you. When all of the March madness happened and the COVID shutdowns happened, I had very real conversations with my staff. And I said, do you want to do this? Do you want to work? And mainly all of them have been with me ever since. We haven't really lost a lot of people. My turnover rate is low. I would hate to say that my staff is like my family, because I think that's like the wrong way to say it. And my staff does a tremendous job, and they work their absolute asses off and deserve the accolades, truly, because day in and day out, they're there.
I know you mentioned how you love food and good food. What was the last great meal that you ate?
That I had, like, incredible, like, blow me away.
Yeah.
I mean, I have a chef. I'm a fan of a chef here. I am a fan of a lot of chefs here. But the last best meal I had was at a restaurant called Ernest in San Francisco. The chef's name is Brandon Rice, and he's opening a steakhouse here. He just announced. Does not have a Michelin star, which is absolutely bananas. I absolutely love his restaurant. I took a photo with him. He's a handsome white man that has a Japanese chef living inside of him. He has a flair for Japanese flavors.
Where'd he come from?
United States of America.
Where'd he work?
He's like Wagyu. He's like Japanese Wagyu out of the United States. He was at Rich Table. You know Rich Table? Evan and Sarah Rich here, which is an absolute tremendous, incredible restaurant in its own right. But he came from Rich Table, and I met him there. And then he went, and I mean, Ernest is just, it's incredible. Up from start to finish, it's just the menu changes. What he does is on another planet. I would say, in addition, I once in a while now I try not to do it too often, but I have fine dining. I have a fine dining aptitude, a very expensive habit. But some of the stuff out here in that realm is just, it's mind-boggling. I mean, absolutely mind-boggling. My other favorite chef, I'm a huge fanboy of Chef Corey Lee. If you know Corey Lee from Bennu and San Juan, his art is simply, his Bennu, it's incredible. I mean, you walk into Bennu. Bennu reminds me a little bit, you've been to the other one I'm a huge fanboy of, and you probably know him, Chris Costow over at Charter Oak. His lobby area, that outdoor area, it's spectacular, right? Like that's how Bennu is. And Bennu, all of Corey's like kimchi and fucking daikon and all his pickled vegetables are outside in containers, and you like want to be that dipshit that opens it up, but the maitre d' is looking out the window and they're like, don't do that. He would do it. Well, the guy from Deli Board may open it.
Little Adam Mesnick would have definitely done it.
Little me? Good Lord. My mom is going to listen to this podcast and be like, you were easy on yourself. But, I was very good at getting it done.
Do those meals, I know you appreciate good food and like once a month or whatever, have those delicious meals. Do they ever inspire anything you're working on back at Deli Board?
I think that maybe that type of food kind of maybe is more utilized in my personal cooking or cooking for my staff, right? Like family meal stuff. Yeah. If I see a technique or something, a flavor that I want to get into, but mainly, I'm fully like engulfed in Mexican food. So Mexican, Latin cuisine, I've sort of traveled the globe, right? Like when I was a teenager, I was obsessed with like Martin and Chinese food. And I still love Chinese food. Don't get me wrong, but I don't cook it as much. I like getting it, but I have my spot where I really like it. And then I kind of shifted into this like Israeli, Mediterranean, Greek style food. And that became like, that was kind of like college into some of my college friends would be like, yeah, man, he made the best cucumber, tomato, and feta. Like that was my dish in college. Like, like a guy like Mike Fine would be like, that guy made the best. He would say, those guys, they know some of my dishes because I made them all the time, right? Like, I still do that, right? And so my food in kind of college and high school probably was influenced more by that hummus. And I was practicing a lot of college, like tons of hummus, right? Like tons of hummus. Like I made hummus 40 different ways, and I still make hummus in my store, very simple. But I was doing black bean hummus and white bean hummus. I was all over the place with hummus, jalapeno hummus. And, so I did a lot of that. And then, post college, I got really into like the Italian cuisine. And the thing is that what I learned is that I don't like to bake or dough. I'm not into dough. dough or baking. Like that's totally not a skill that I can work with because I'm a little bit of this guy, I'm a little bit of that guy. So after that, I really got into like soups. I mean, my business started, I used to sell wholesale soup in the beginning of time for Deli Board for many years. And I used to sell hundreds of gallons a week. Like I would bag up soup and sell broccoli cheddar to, cafes all over San Francisco. And one thing that has changed in San Francisco, the coffee culture is so hot, right? Coffee sort of replaced soup. Like before it was like clam chowder and soup Nazi and it was like everyone was eating soup. And I have a couple special soup recipes. One of them was a tomato polenta, which the street kids ended up calling it liquid lasagna, but it tasted like lasagna in a liquid form. And it was great for kids on the street because most of them have no teeth, but I would give them the soup and my tomato polenta became popular. So what happened was I became like a soup vendor on Market Street because I stopped selling it. It just didn't sell at Deli Board ever, but it sold everywhere else. It was really interesting. It sold at a lot of restaurants that didn't have sandwiches. They had soup. So they knew it was Deli Board soup, but my foundation was wholesale too. So a lot of people tasted the food or saw the logo or saw the label. Before Deli Board was Deli Board, I was doing anything and everything to get my food out there. I used to sell chicken wings on Sundays, buffalo wings. On Sundays, I would sell buffalo wings to local bars. And I would send them it's 11 o'clock games and 1 here. So at 11:05, I'd have a guy land at the first bar. He would make 3 deliveries and then come back for the 1 o'clock games. Get him fresh trays. I had these really nice chafing dishes.
I've had your wings.
Well, at the time, I didn't have a fryer. So I called them like fall off the bone buffalo wings. And they literally were just juiced in buffalo. And the owners were like, holy shit, all these people are drinking twice as much beer. Bring more. They were salty dogs. But I would do anything. And I would deliver it myself. I did everything and anything to get my food out there. So the grind was 10, 11, 12. I moved to the space I'm in currently in 2011, and the grind really it never ended. And I think my ability to recover and adapt, get back up and start again, I'm trained to be resilient.
What's next?
What's next for Deli Board? I don't know. I love talking. I love talking about my past and I love educating. So I'm doing some volunteer work at the Salvation Army here, teaching classes. If anybody hears this and really wants me to teach a class, reach out. I'm into it. I may have to eventually find a different home for Deli Board and maybe move it into a location where I can maximize production and do a little bit more. The space I'm in is very old and it's done an incredible job and the journey has been incredible, but I may need a freshen up and probably expand a little bit. What else? That's it.
I want to talk about social impact and giving back because our listeners know we celebrate that with all of our guests, chefs, restaurateurs, whomever. Learning how they all do it is really inspiring for us, and seeing what you have done over the years is next level. Like, I don't say that lightly to anyone listening. Like, what Adam does in his community is truly next level. And so I would love for you to share a little bit more about, maybe just give a few examples, or from your point of view, what you've done, because I've seen it on television, I've seen it on social media, and I've seen it in person. And so I would love for you to share a little bit more about that.
First of all, I've probably donated more sandwiches than I've sold through time and food. So I'm very involved in the community. I'm active, right? I'm an active citizen. I'm not only a talker, but I'm also a walker, right? I got boots on the ground. So I've spent a lot of years with boots on the ground in a very tough San Francisco, south of Market, in Tenderloin neighborhood. I tell people I have a PhD in fentanyl addiction. And as awful as that sounds, it's the reality. And it's something that I talk about very openly. And I have spent years and years trying to facilitate change, right? I am an active board member on what's called the Soma West Community Benefit District, which is a layer of safety and cleaning for my immediate neighborhood. I was part of the structure, helped structure it, and starting back in 2016, 2017, and it launched in 20. Everything takes a lot of time. So I put in my time there as well. I'm also a board member on a group called Mothers Against Drugs and Drug Addiction. It's a group of moms who mainly have children addicted to fentanyl on streets in San Francisco, Bay Area, but also some of their kids have now recovered, and unfortunately some of their kids are no longer around. So I'm involved there as well. I think that my curiosity was really piqued by the environment, and I really wanted to understand what and who and how. I'm a very curious person, and a lot of my curiosity was practiced during COVID. So there was a lot of time to fill, right? I'm not nearly as active as I was. My world has sort of changed. I've moved residences, so I don't necessarily live and work in the same neighborhood anymore. So that's a big change for me. But my work really started feeding people who were on the street. And I used to roll a cart. I always had extra food. It was, it's part of the restaurant deal. And I know everybody has their own outlet. Sometimes they have people who would pick it up from different agencies and donate. I've donated so much food, but I used to wheel a cart out to Market Street and 7th in San Francisco, and I used to feed all the people on the street. And, I befriended a couple of them, and I still have I'm still friends with them today. So not all of them are around. And what I've witnessed is just a terribly tragic drug epidemic. And I think like anything else, it'll take time for the world to adapt to the severity of it. And once the severity is realized, I think that we can start figuring out ways to tackle the problem. But I think it's a problem nationwide. It's not just a San Francisco thing. I've taken a lot of flack for it. I've been blackballed. I've been shadow banned. I know, a lot of food writers have shied away from discussing it with me. It's a hard topic, and I get that it's a hard topic. It's a severely hard topic. But what I've witnessed and what I've documented and the relationships that I've built with people on the street are probably photographs and videos that will live on far longer than me. And, it was, interestingly enough, it was all captured with an iPhone, right? So it's this new wave of technology where a lot of horrific scenes were caught just with an iPhone. And, again, I look at it as, for me, I was able to move, and part of me moving is, for me personally, another series of recovery, right? And I saw and have seen some horrific things. And, I hate to sound morbid, but I found a couple dead bodies in my time. And, it happens here, and it's not right. But again, in a period, in a different place where I live elsewhere and I spend the time outside of work dealing with it, right? I mean, I deal with it. It was a very challenging time. It was a very challenging, all of it was challenging moments. You have your main job, and then you have this kind of side video vigilante kind of persona. And the way that I've always described it is my life is sort of like Fantasy Island, if you remember that television show. If anybody would want to read about it, it's very well documented. A lot of my work has been documented. I've been on CNN and all the local news stations. One of the worst decisions that I made was ever being on Fox News, only one time as a live appearance. But I asked my audience on Twitter or X, I asked my audience, should I appear? And they said, yeah, as long as it's live TV. So I did a live TV thing with Jesse Waters. He's a dipshit. He fucked up my name. He didn't even call me by the right name, just Basura. But anyways, that's that. And I took a lot of flack. I think a lot of people have to really understand that activism doesn't necessarily equate to success or movement immediately. It takes years and years. So, I hope I lay the foundation to create change in the future in San Francisco.
Yeah, I think the work you do is incredible. As I mentioned, you and I have taken Well, I've mentioned I've seen it firsthand. And when I say that I've seen it firsthand, I visited your Deli board a number of times and we've taken walks around the block and around the neighborhood and just seen how some of these folks interact with you and respect you, and how you respect them is pretty amazing. And I applaud the work you do.
I mean, I built some really special relationships, right? And the thing that there's so much talk from like the top level people about the community on the bottom. And I don't really, I mean, they're all like you or me. I mean, they seriously, like one of my best friends here, she got here on October 11th, 2012 for a fish show. She's never left since that fish show. She's never seen the Golden Gate Bridge. She lives in the Tenderloin. She lives south of Market on the sidewalk. There'd be no reason for her to leave. There's no drugs over there. But, you know, again, these people all of them have very interesting stories. But, you know, the saddest part is most of them are suffering. A lot of them are struggling, and a lot of them are mentally ill, and a lot of them are drug addicts. And I don't know what came first, the chicken or the egg, but these people deserve to have a better situation, especially with the robust economy that a state like California has.
You mentioned the word activist and activism, and it's like every little bit helps. And I say this in almost every episode, and that's okay. Hopefully it sparks something for someone listening. But I always tell people, like, give what you can, whether it's sharing your voice, sharing your dollars, sharing your time. You sure do most of those things in one form or another, but you can make a difference for these individuals, for the community, and beyond. So yeah, man, thanks. Appreciate that. All right, let's do a little quick speed round and then we'll close it out. Cool?
Sounds good to me.
All right, number one, what'd you have for dinner last night?
There's a little deli around the corner from me called Luca. I got some fresh pasta. I got some pesto, and I boiled the pasta and put some pesto on it. It was absolutely delicious. It was delicious. They make great Italian food.
Name a smell in the kitchen you love.
Bacon.
Name a smell in the kitchen you hate.
Raw, foul chicken.
What pisses you off in the kitchen?
Dirty dishes.
What makes you happy in the kitchen?
Smiling, happy people creating food.
Share a book or a resource that you may suggest to a young cook.
To a young cook? I mean, I would say you probably have to get the Professional Chef book online, right? And get whatever they give the kids in the culinary schools and absorb as much information out of that as you possibly can. Cappy, there's nothing more valuable than working in a kitchen. You could learn all that you can from a book, but there's some practicality that just doesn't apply. And I think that, again, it's a very special place. I mean, for me, it's my sanctuary. It's, my food is my symphony. The kitchen is just a very special place for me.
We have an audio newsletter called Heard, where I share a few things on my plate at the moment. It could be a restaurant I went to or want to go to, a product or ingredient I've used, a recipe, something social impact or philanthropy related, anything. So I would love for you to tell me one thing on your plate that I can feature in one of our forthcoming Heard episodes.
I'll tell you one thing that I'm really obsessed with right now is marinating beef, whether it be tri-tip or skirt steak, in apple cider vinegar, using apple cider vinegar. And what I found is maybe the most tender, delicious product that I've really found in terms of an acid. Again, on the Mexican side, they use citrus, you use that lemon, you use that lime stuff. But man, apple cider vinegar. Here's the dish, tri-tip, which I don't even know if they have tri-tip in other places other than California.
It's a West Coast thing for sure.
It's definitely a West Coast thing, but get your hands on some tri-tip. Or you could do it with skirt steak, and you do apple cider vinegar and olive oil, salt and pepper, onion powder and garlic powder, and a little bit of the secret seasoning that's on my plate right now, Cappy. It's called caldo de pollo. It is a Mexican seasoning, and it is basically powdered chicken bouillon. And I would imagine that anybody who has a Latin chef understands what I'm talking about, but it's got it's seasoning salt with MSG.
How long do you let it marinate?
I let it go for a day. But man, I use a grill like an actual grill. And I grill it, and you get the nice grill marks, and then you bake it off. And then you got to use your thermometer, chefs. Make sure to have a thermometer. Besides washing your hands, you need a thermometer on your plate. But the one day, and then you bake it, and it's absolutely incredible. I'm always messing around. And for me, it creates a really nice mouthfeel and flavor.
Nice. That sounds good. All right, man. Where can people find you?
You can find me at Instagram, Deliboard, DELIBOARDSF on Instagram. The awful television station that I have is Better Soma. And I think I was saying that before, is that my world is sort of separated in two separate television stations, and the Twitter or X posts are vicious and ugly and awful, and everything about Deliboard is beautiful. And again, it's like Fantasy Island. Do you remember that television show?
Yes.
Yeah, they get the good with the bad. No one gets everything.
Love it. All right, dude. Appreciate your time. This was fun.
Later. Thanks, Cappy.
Find all social media links for myself, Beyond the Plate, and our guests in the episode notes and on beyondtheplatepodcast.com. As always, a big thanks to the whole Beyond the Plate team. And if you have a moment, we'd be grateful for your support by rating, reviewing, and even hitting that subscribe button to the podcast. Don't forget to join us next Wednesday for an episode of Beyond the Drink, our companion podcast of Beyond the Plate, brought to you by our friends at Ford's Gin. Thank you for listening to Beyond the Plate. I'm Cappy, and remember, there are never too many cooks in the kitchen.